Hi, everybody. It's Mike Weller from the Weller Group at Keller Williams Realty. It's February 2021, and we are here with our monthly mortgage moment with Momi. Momi Pointer from Arbor Financial joining us. Hi, Momi.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Mike. Thanks. Can't believe it's February already.
I know. Valentine's Day is coming up. The year is moving along. So, how's the mortgage world moving along?
The mortgage world is moving along terrific. A couple points, thanks for having me on again this morning. A couple of points I want to make is rates are actually lower by 0.75% this year than they were last year in February. One thing we have to remember is we hadn't hit the pandemic. We hadn't been in, hadn't been in lockdown. So it's all kind of relative, because if we go into March of this year versus last year, rates will probably be a little bit higher than they were in March of last year. But right now, rates are 0.75% lower than they were last year, which means the majority of people have probably already refinanced, right? Or even refinanced twice. I mean, I have, borrowers that have redone their mortgage or their mortgage refinanced twice since last year, within the year. But if you haven't, let's say you purchased using 3.5% down FHA or 5% down conventional, and you have mortgage insurance, I would recommend that with the appreciation in value, and I mean, everybody knows there's no inventory, right? And prices are going up and up and up with every single, consecutive purchase that's closing. If you haven't refinanced and you don't think that you qualify or can because you may not have enough equity, it doesn't cost you a penny to call me to have me evaluated. I have many clients right now that purchased last year using FHA, where I'm either able to get them into a conventional loan, eliminate mortgage insurance, or lower their mortgage insurance, thus saving them on payment. Many people don't know that with FHA financing, Mike, the mortgage insurance is for the life of the loan.
Right.
So conventional is much easier to eliminate mortgage insurance, and it's much easier to, wrap it into the loan and not have that payment.
Yeah, I think
so. That's what I'm doing a lot of.
I think and hopefully you're doing some of that. I think we spoke about that last month or a couple of months ago, where I think we said, if you're in an FHA mortgage, unless you literally just bought your house last month, you really need to look at refinancing to get out of that. Yeah, even if you don't have 20% equity, if you get up to 10% equity, you're able to work with them pretty well on that, I think, right?
Yeah, so I'll give you a story of a client that I have, and they bought using Cal HFA, which is the down payment assistance program. They had a first, a second, and a third. When you buy, when you buy using Cal HFA, those are not forgiven. They're not grants where they're forgiven. If you refinance or sell the home, you have to pay off the first, the second, and the third. They're silent second, thirds, and you don't have to make any payments on them. So this gentleman has enough equity now. A year or 2 years later, I can't remember. I know it's under the 2-year mark. He's gained so much equity that we are actually able to pay the first, the second, and the third off, not have any mortgage insurance, and probably save him a good $700 a month from his FHA purchase loan, which, wasn't a high rate, but back in the day, if you did a first, second, and a third, it was probably in the 4s. So, I was saying to my processor yesterday, holy moly, that really makes my heart happy that I'm able to save a buyer $700 a month and get rid of that second and third. And of course, they forgot that you have to pay that, but thankfully they have enough equity to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the key.
Yeah. So the majority of people watching this who are homeowners probably are in a conventional, not an FHA. So I know and understand, not everybody probably understands, but I understand that you can't quote interest rates on here. I'm not asking you to do that. But what is a rough rule of thumb on an interest rate threshold that if somebody is not below that currently, it makes sense for them to have a mortgage conversation, have a refinance exploration conversation. Like if somebody's at even as low as 3.25, it makes sense for them to take a look at it at this point, or where do you think that number is?
Yes, absolutely. Because rates with refinances or even cash out refinances are still in the high twos. So they're
Yeah.
still south of 3.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple people that are at 3 1/8, 3.125, and they're evaluating, refinancing. They are clients that have mortgage insurance, and I'm actually able to lower their mortgage insurance. I also wanted to mention, Mike, that I have jumbos have been challenging during the pandemic, right?
Yep.
But I do have a new jumbo lender that, if you are in a jumbo loan, which is anything over 822,000 in LA County, San Diego County, Orange County, in Riverside, in like the Inland Empire, I want to say it's 5 something.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you are in that position and you got an adjustable rate, either an interest only or a 5 or 7 or even a 10-year adjustable rate where it's fixed for that amount of time and then it starts to adjust.
Right.
Now might be the right time for you to evaluate getting a 30-year fixed mortgage and getting rid of that adjustable, because again, money's cheap, rates are low, and you'll now be in a 30-year fixed and might be able to either save yourself money or get yourself out of that interest only payment so that you're paying down your principal.
Yeah.
Those rates right now on a 30-year fixed are also in the high twos.
Yep.
And I'm closing them pretty quickly, actually. So it's a great product.
Yeah.
Great product.
Yeah, and I'll just share this really quick. I've been in real estate for this is my 16th year actually now, believe it or not. And I cannot ever, and so I came into the business just right at the peak of, the mid 2000s and jumped right into, the 2007, 8, all of that. And then through the last 10, 12 years or so with the market's been like, I have never met anybody or had a conversation with somebody who ever did a refinance and regretted it later. Right? Like some people are always very hesitant about it because they're afraid of maybe the costs and the fees, which, really in the grand scheme of things are not, such a small percentage. I've never met anybody who's actually done a refinance who then went back and kicked themselves later for, I shouldn't have done that. I should have stayed at my interest rate that was a 0.5 point higher or 3/4 of a point higher. So,
agreed. And,
yeah.
you talk about the fees. Let's talk about that a little bit. To refinance, it's certainly not the same because most people are gun shy. They've done their purchase, and you and I both know that fees on a purchase are 2 to 2.5% of the purchase price. So if you're looking at a $500,000 home, you're looking at fees of anywhere from $10,000 to $12,000, depending on impounds, right? Property taxes and that kind of thing. On a refinance, the fees are way lower. Let's just say $3,600 to $4,000. Let's just call it that.
Yeah.
I'm telling people with money so cheap, if you wrap the closing costs into your refi,
Yeah.
it will only raise your payment by $15 or $16 a month.
Right.
Which is
a
tax write-off. Obviously, consult with your CPA, but if you're saving $200 and you're only raising your payment by $15 or $16 a month by wrapping it in,
Yes. Yep.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, no, I absolutely agree with you. It's, sometimes people get so caught up in the little details that they're missing the big picture on it. So.
Right. And then what I was going to mention is I do an analysis. I think you've seen these. I've done an analysis for you where you can drag along the year's timeline and see how much mortgage interest you're going to be saving, over the time of a certain span of time. And what I'm doing with a lot of my clients now is, I'm giving them 3 different rate options: buying it down, paying a lot of money to buy it down, at no cost to that, and then a slight cost. And the funny thing is most of them are opting to buy the rate down, because when they look at the analysis, they're actually paying off that that return on investment to buy the rate down and wrapping in their closing costs within 6 to 10 months. If it's a slight buy down, and they're seeing the amount of mortgage interest savings that they'll have just by buying the rate down by an eighth. An eighth meaning, like, if it's 2.875, 2.75 would be an eighth.
Right.
So they're seeing the difference in that.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we, have a lot of good information here. It's not a ton of new information, really. It's kind of the same conversation we've been having for the past few months or so, but that's what's going on. Like, that's what's happening in the mortgage world, and interest rates, and, financing and refinancing. So we'll come back next month and we'll talk about either interest rates having gone down to 1% or they've shot up to 7%. So
let's hope
probably not. We'll probably be having a similar conversation next month, would be my guess.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, Mike. Thanks a lot.
So, no, you're welcome. Well, thanks for joining me on here. Always good chatting with you and talking to you, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye, Mike.
Thanks, Momi. Bye.